Midway Games.
I grew up playing games in an age that's, well, it's long gone now. It's difficult to articulate to modern audiences exactly what's changed since then, but video games really used to have this warmth to them that you just don't feel anymore. And sure, you could argue that it's because I'm jaded and bitter and it's actually the light that's gone from inside of me, which, fair enough. But tell me why the biggest fantasy game of all time's inventory is a f***ing grocery list. We all recognize games like Call of Duty have had a measurable reduction in UI quality over the years as it's been re-engineered to trick children into gambling away their inheritance. But that's not exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the soul of the game. See, the entire game industry used to be more like what indie developers are now. A small handful of people hallucinating in a room together, building a collective vision of what they imagined to be fun, instead of business departments triple the size of the development team trying to optimize a bottom line. And maybe it's because everyone's basically mentally disabled from growing up staring at screens their entire life, or perhaps it's just a good old-fashioned coordinated demoralization effort to prepare us for life inside a pod. But you know what? I like playing Tetris in the inventory. I know it's impractical, the young folks hate it, and everyone's moved over to putting each item in a single slot for convenience and efficiency. But I don't care. Gold coins take up 1 cube. Armor takes up 6 cubes. That's law. Look, I want what every man wants. UI with runes and skulls. Maybe a family. And to get the f***ing Brits out of Ireland. Now I say this while my own game's UI looks like this. Someone actually asked me in a comment if I plan on adding proper UI, which is hilarious because I am, but as you'll see, not really. So today we're going to explore making UI that's fun, for me. And a lot of people will hate it, and there will be mods to completely redesign it into something more palatable. But folks, I want f***ing glowing runes. I want buttons that are runes and they glow. Anyways, I'm Code for Broke, and you can't put a tariff on Canadian video games, folks. I think. I don't know. I started by signing up for a free trial of a program they use at my workplace called Figma. And I began blocking out some UI and labeling it. I worked at this for a good 15 minutes, and then I thought, who am I kidding with this planning shit? I mean, come on. So I deleted the project and my account. Instead of drawing, what if I just build the UI in 3D instead? So I took a cube and stretched it into a rectangle, switched the camera to an orthographic perspective, which is to say everything is rendered at the same distance away, there's not really any depth, and I sculpted the cube into this sort of stone structure here. Added some lights and rendered it at a low resolution for a slightly pixelated aesthetic, hit render, and wow, it sucks. So I deleted the lights, threw on ambient occlusion, and made a shader to add color detail to the geometry. Then I rendered it again and threw it in the game, and you know what? I think this actually looks pretty cool. We might just have something here with a little more elbow grease. And the nice thing is I can just adjust some values in the material and render it again instead of having to redraw it all the time, which is sweet. Now the next problem is I haven't even added the ugly version of the menu items I want to sculpt yet. These health bars can't articulate the level of detail we're after, so I'd like to create a new menu with some more advanced details. This game features a limb-based health system with more complexity to it than a simple health bar can explain. So we'd like to be able to mouse over our limbs to inspect them. I created a Blender script to render 2D UI sprites for each of the characters' limbs. I'm not sold on the aesthetic of them just yet, but this sort of pixelated line art will do for now. Then I reused the old art to rough out a new UI character panel. The character being inspected, in this case the player, is passed into it, and a display is generated for each limb and assembled in the UI. I added a hover effect that fades the color of the limb and loads a display of all the stat details, showing its health and strength, which are the only limb-specific stats right now. Of course, we can color these sprites red when they take damage, so you can get some details at a glance about what's in trouble, and color them dark gray when they're completely broken or severed. Now we can watch this goblin get picked away by NPCs named after my Patreon subscribers. Easy there, fellas. You're hurting them. We'll also add some extra flavor text in different colors to show the status of the limb, whether it's broken, severed, bleeding, tired, whatever. Eventually, we'll let the player bandage or cauterize wounds from this menu, and I'd like to have some fun shaders and particles to visually represent the status effects at a glance as well. Now, what's this little detail I added in brackets? Goblin flesh? Why do we need to know something like that? Well, because your limbs are not always necessarily going to be made of goblin flesh just because you're a goblin, right? This is where the fun of having everything made of materials with different properties starts. Through some kind of deal with the devil or monkey paw type situation, you might instead have an arm made of stone, or copper, or wood. Anything really. Like 3 different flavors: chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry wafers. And the properties of that material, as you can imagine, will change its behavior. Inorganic materials will be stronger, but they don't regenerate naturally. Wood will be susceptible to fire, and a limb transmuted into a liquid will simply fall off your body into a puddle. Regardless, it's clear we're going to need some more menus. More data. I wrote a quick tab system to allow navigating between different panels. Nothing groundbreaking going on here. Next, I got back to making some art for the UI. I blocked out a couple pieces and then painstakingly sculpted them into stones. Then I decided to make this gothic archway because come on, bud. Archways are sick. Next, I made some big runes to use for our tabs. I sculpted this skull for, I guess, the skull menu. That's pretty intuitive stuff. Then this bag for the inventory, and this heart, which I had meant for sort of a relationship or political standing menu, but it's a little confusing since the skull was supposed to mean life. But you know, you'll pick it up, you'll figure it out. I made a few more materials for the selected and highlighted states of the rune tabs. Didn't turn out nearly as good as I'd hoped, so we'll have to make them glow in the engine with shaders. And here's what this menu looks like in-game. It's a little messy, and now I'm feeling I might want all the UI to have more of this gothic archway aesthetic instead of the stone, but I might leave that up to the art guy when he's recovered from his gunshot wound. Now at this point I started getting pretty excited, and things got a little off the rails for a bit, I'll admit, but bear with me here. I gave the limbs a list of items they've been punctured with. Then I modeled an arrow and rendered it into a little 2D sprite. Next, I had the UI render the list of punctured objects onto the screen, and updated the limb data with an explanation into what's going on. Now for the fun part. I made it so you can grab the punctured objects in your character and yank them out, causing bleeding. Having a puncture will not only reduce the limb stats, but also lower the max health they can recover until it's removed. Since blood is a shared total for the entire body, you might have to delay removing a puncture to avoid passing out from blood loss. Now, ripping out punctured objects with a mouse in a menu is a tedious manual labor I'm subjecting the players to, and I expect to hear some complaints about it. And my response to that would be, you know, folks, sometimes it's cool when things suck. Sometimes it's cool when things kind of suck. You know what I'm talking about? Anyways, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, but especially comment. And also check out my Patreon, or better yet, vandalize your local community with my account name. Or perhaps, mail your hair to politicians and mention me in the note. And if you happen to know Joe Rogan, just a mention would be fine. Okay, peace out, everybody. Making UI is hard. It's really hard. It's harder than I thought. I'm sorry, Todd Howard. I apologize. It's tough. Tough to do.
I see the reason I'm bleeding out. I need you now.